Hello folks, welcome to our canal channel Jose. Today we're going to give you an idea how to replace the cooling fans on your 2007 to 2012 Toyota Camry. And these fans on our case, the housing or the structure is broken, so we need to replace the fan shroud so we can have a better cooling system. So if the fan shroud is not, if it's broken, you might have a lack of cooling with the system. So we're going to take the old fans out, we're going to transfer them to a new fan shroud, and we're going to install them. We're going to give you an idea how you can do this replacement even if you have to replace the whole assembly. And with that said, let's get started. So as you're looking at the front of your car, we're going to have to remove this plastic, so let's start by that. So now we're going to have to remove this piece of air duct to the engine or the intake, so we can start removing or components to clear out the path of the fans. So as you can see, that's the bottom of the radiator, and there's the right on the driver's side butterfly nut that you gotta loosen. So and then we connected a hose to the bottom of that butterfly fitting or the radiator, so we can guide the coolant down to the lower part where the catch pan is gonna be. So you can do that to avoid spills on the plastic area on the top. So now that we're ready, we're gonna feed our container right underneath there, and then we're gonna open the nut for the drain point, and we're gonna have this catching all of our coolant, so that way we can drain it all out now. So now we have the coolant coming out, and it's in a controlled environment, so we got it right into the container. So that's why the purpose of the little piece of hose connected to the bottom of the radiator, so we can go through the plastics and all that. And now we can open the radiator and take off the cap, so the gravity does its job and it can drain the fluid faster. So now that we are draining our fluid, we're gonna be needing to take this clamp off so we can remove this hose back, so the fans can actually slide up through this area. That's the reason we have to remove this hose, because the fans run from one end to another end of the radiator, and they're pretty hard to bring out without this hose being if this hose is there. So we take this hose out once the fluid has dropped this level, and then we're going to disconnect our fans. So now that we have removed our upper hose, and we're going to be disconnecting this plug right here, and then we're going to be disconnecting this plug right here to remove this harness away, so we can start sliding our fans out. And to slide them out, we're going to have to compress this securing point here, and then the other one on this other side, but it's broken off. On our case, this is why we're replacing the fan shroud, because it's vibrating and it can create a hole in the radiator and it's affecting the cooling. So let's unplug those harness to take the fans out. So now that we have disconnected both fans, we have to undo this clip from the fan shroud, because this is a harness on the car, not these. So we have to undo it from here, pop it, put it out of the way, and then we can start bringing our fans out. So now to get the fans away from the radiator, we have to press on these clips inwards, push them together. There's the second one, and then the third one on that side after the radiator cap, which is broken on the fan shroud. So we push them together, and then we pull them away from the radiator, so we can start pulling the fans straight up. So first starts the engine and then up. So now we got our shroud or our fence out, and look, it broke off like paper. So we're gonna get those fans out of this old shroud and put them into the new shroud. So these plastics are so dried up that they just break like if they were paper, cardboard. Look. So now we're about to transfer our fans from the old fan shroud to this new one, And what we're going to be doing is we're going to have to take off those fans off of the fan motors, and there has a 8mm nut that we have to remove to take those fans, the blades off, because the motors go to the opposite side, and we can transfer into the new fan shroud. So now we're about to transfer the motors because we took the blades off. So whatever motor you took off from one spot, put it on the spot that it's gonna be at. So reference the fan shroud. So we're gonna take off that one, put it on the same location, the other one on that location, and they come off with they have 3 screws, Phillips, in each motor. So start with one and then transfer it and then go for the next one. So now we have removed one, and then what we do, we get our fan shroud, we put it through the back, line up the holes, and then put the 3 screws so we can secure it. So now we have transferred the motors to the new fan shroud. What we're going to be doing is get our blades and put them on so we can tighten them and we can start putting it back into the car. So now you get your blades, you put them on, and then once you put them on, before you put the nut, put a drop of Loctite into that, so then when the nut is there and it's spinning, it doesn't come off. So now that we have put our Loctite and our nut, we can tighten it with 8mm socket. When you're doing this tightening, you're gonna have to grab your fan so you can turn and tighten it. Otherwise, it's gonna try to spin like this. So here's our new fan shroud, or used but new, and this is the one that was on our car, disintegrating. So now we're gonna have a better cooling fan system on our car. So now that we're gonna be putting our fans in, we're gonna show that this heat shield for this motor on the driver's side, we took it off before we took out the fans, because otherwise it wouldn't fit through the gap. So now we put the fans and then we'll put this one on, and it's attached like this with 2 10mm bolts in there. So we'll do this at the end. So what we have to do is we have to get our bracket for the battery tie down, and then we remove it out of the way so we can fit this corner down this way, or we need to move it this way. This was in the way, so now we can work with it a little bit more, because it's not that easy to go in with all this stuff around it. Now that you were able to slide it right in the grooves on the bottom, now you can slide it and present it right here. So now what we have left is we have to put the plugs into the fans, each fan. We put the heat shield on the fan next to the manifold. So now that you have put up the 2 bolts for the heat shield, 10mm socket or a wrench, so now we tighten them. So now we can put our upper hose into the radiator, and then put the clamp on, tighten it, and we can start adding our coolant to the system. So now that we have put everything together, we're gonna put our funnel to fill up the coolant back up, because we had to get some coolant out, and we're not gonna use that coolant because it might be contaminated. So the reason we had to remove this hose is so we can bring out our fans up through this side, because that side, the neck on the radiator, wouldn't let us in the manifold. So all you want to do is just drop the level of the coolant below this area when you take out the hose, so it doesn't spill any coolant here. Once it's below, then you're good. You just take the hose out of the way and start taking your fans out of the car. Now we're just gonna take out the air out of the cooling system with our spill-free funnel. We're gonna try to get as much air out of the system, so that way the system cools down better. So that's all we gotta do now. So now that we have replaced the fan shroud for this engine, we put our hose back in, we fill up our cooling system with new coolant, and now we can remove our spill-free funnel, because we have burped all the air out of the engine, and this is made for this. And then we can put a radiator cap back on, put the plastic and the intake box piece that we took out, and that should complete this replacement of this fan shroud. So now that we put everything back together, we got the levels of fluids where it needs to be. We check the temperature and it's normal. We've been running the engine for about 15 minutes. So now that everything looks good, we're done with the job. Well, folks, hopefully this video was useful and helpful on how to replace the fan shroud or the fans on a 2007 to 2012 Toyota Camry. And on our case, we just replaced the shroud because it was disintegrating in there. So we replaced the shroud and we transferred the fans to the new one and we installed it back in. So in our case, we had to remove the upper hose of the radiator. So before that, you gotta drop some liquid so it drops below that level, so you can remove the hose and you can extract your fans. And then once you do the job of transferring fans, or you're gonna get the new fans in there, and then you can start putting the hose back on and then get the air, purge the air out of the system, and then make sure everything turns on before you take it for a drive. So with that said, folks, for friends who are watching our video, haven't subscribed to our channel, please subscribe. If you like our video, give us thumbs up, share it, and we'll see you soon with more videos here in el canal El Chano Jose.